Hi, and I hope you're doing well. Now we are going to see something really important. We are going to see C-sharp conditions, ternary conditions, and nullable variables. In this video, we are going to use a lot of logic, and this is something really important to have. The table of truth is something really important, and it's going to help you a lot to understand this better. If you don't know the table of truth, maybe you just skipped a lot of classes, or maybe you're just too young. But either way, you can search it on Google and study this, which is really important to program. So here in C Sharp, we have some different types of conditions. We have if condition, we have an else if condition, and we have the else keyword, and we have the switch case, and we also have the switch expression. And here we are going to define a test variable which will hold a value of 5. Just to quickly show you some operations that we can do. So the first operator that we are going to see is equal equals. And this basically means that we want to test if this variable equals this value. The second operation that we have is negate if something is equal. So we can do exclamation mark and then equals. And this means that we want to see if this variable is different than this value. We can also do greater than, which is this sign right here. We are basically saying if this variable is greater than this value or less than the same sign to the other side. We also have other operators like AND, just like this. If we have test variable greater than 0 and test2 less than 10, we can do something. And then we have an else if, which is a condition that will only work if the first if is false. And then we can do test greater than 0 or test2 less than 10, and then this will run. The difference between have an if and a else if and having just this is that with an else if, it will only run if the first if is not true. So in this case right now, if the first if is true, the second if is going to run anyways. And like this, with an else if, this will only run if the first if is not true. And if this is true, the else is not going to work. The else only works if everything before was false. Down here we have a switch case, and this condition basically enables us to switch different cases in a variable. So we say switch, and then we pass a variable that we want to switch. And in case this variable is 0, we are going to do something here, right? Also the right line, whatever. And then we have this break keyword, which means that it stops here, right? This case stops here. And then we can have a case 1, and we can have a case 2, and so on. And we have a default, which is the default value that the switch case will return. So you can just console.writeLine order, yeah, whatever. Thank you, AI. I'm not a big fan of AI, but you know, it helps sometimes. Here on switch cases, we can also use operators like less than or greater than. When you use operators such as this, you can see that we get an error here, and this is because this case is unreachable, right? Because if we say case greater than 0, this also includes 1, includes 2, includes 3, and every other number. So we can actually do the other way around. So if case this variable is 0, and case this variable is greater than 1, and then we run like this number is bigger than 1. Then we have switch expressions, which are new in .NET. switch expressions came in .NET 8, and this is pretty much the same as the switch case, but kind of shorter. And we can, oh, I think I can't do Vim commands in here. So the difference here is that a switch case will execute a block of code in each case, and a switch expression is used usually when you want to return some value based on a condition. So based on this test variable, if it is equals 0, we want to return a string that says 0, and if it is greater than 1, we want to return this number is bigger than 1. And in any other case, we just return other. We also have another operator here, which is greater than or equal. So if it is 1 or bigger than 1, this number is bigger than 1 or equal to 1. Yeah, thank you very much. And this operator can be used, of course, in any statement, in conditional statement. What this basically do is include the number in this operation. So this is less than or equal to 10. If we do just less than, it means that test2 must be 9, 8, 7, and so on. If we do it equal, it can be 9, 8, 7, and even 10. So let's actually get everything out of here. We are going to make a new class called SpeedCamera. Here we are going to define this public class SpeedCamera with a minimal speed, with a max speed, and this is just to simulate a speed camera because we have the vehicle class, and we are going to test some things with the if and switch just to see how it works. So first thing that we are going to do is define this random class, and this comes from .NET itself. This is a built-in class that provides us a random number generator. Here we are going to have a vehicle 1 and a vehicle 2, which are a Fiat and a Kawasaki, with 200 and 250 of speed, max speed, and 5 as capacity and 2 as capacity. Then we have a speed camera that has a minimum speed of 50 and a maximum speed of 120. And this is just to simulate like if these vehicles are on a freeway or whatever. And this is kind of a vague example, but it's good for you to understand how things works, how classes works, objects, statements, conditions. And further on the series, we are going to see more, real world projects. So now we are going to simulate the speed of each vehicle. We are going to use double because that's what our random class will return. So we are going to do a v1 speed, which is the speed for the vehicle 1. And we are also going to use a built-in class from .NET, which is called Math. This class has everything that we need to do math operations, and we want to do exactly what the AI is suggesting. We want to round this number that we are going to get, and this number is just next double because we do not have a next float. If we had this, we would use it, but we are going to do a next double times the max speed. This next double is a number between, I think, 0 and 1, greater than 0 and 1. Yeah, returns a random floating point number that is greater than or equal to 0 and less than 1. So it is never 1, it is like 0.9 or whatever, but it can be 0. So we are going to do the same thing for the second vehicle. I'm going to copy this paste and yeah, change it like that. Now we are going to print the speed of the vehicles using a template string. You're going to see v1 v1 speed. Then we're going to see v2 and just like that. Now we can actually test, and AI is reading my mind. I don't know why, but thank you. Don't want it. We're going to see if the v1 speed is greater than the SpeedCamera.MaxSpeed. And I don't want to do tab because I don't want that body in the if. Or if v1 speed is less than SpeedCamera.minimum speed. So if the vehicle one speed is greater than the maximum speed set in the camera, or it is less than the minimum speed set in the camera, it means that V1 got a ticket. You idiot. Now we can do a switch case to see at what speed was the vehicle 1 and the vehicle 2 going. So let's do a switch. And we cannot do what the AI is suggesting us. AI is suggesting us to do case greater than and then max speed, or less than minimum speed, but switch case only accepts literal numbers. So if we do a tab here, you can see that we get this error, and it says a constant value of type double is expected. This means that we must have a literal number here, not a variable. So we can take this off just like this, and you got a ticket for being too fast. And you got a ticket for being a snail. If none of these are true, we can use the default, and we can say that something went wrong in the system, right? So basically, if the vehicle 1 speed is greater than the maximum speed or less than the minimum speed, you are getting a ticket. But if you are going at 120 or 50, if it is equal, you are not going to get a ticket. So if it is equal or between these limits, we're going to say also right line, and here we are going to say no money for the government from V1. Now we can just copy this and paste this down below, and we are going to change the V1 to V2. So we can select the name, press Ctrl D 2 times to select inside here. If we press more times, we are going to select up there, and we don't want that. So 2 times, we select here, we change this one to 2, and we change this V1 to 2, and this V1 down here to 2. Now, if you run this program, you can see that everything is glued together, and I don't want that. So I'm going to do here is /n, and also down here. So if you run this, you can see that up here we have the speed, which is 53 for V1 and 215 for V2. And you can see for V1, no money for the government from V1. And then V2 got a ticket for being too fast. Now up here we said that double the V1 speed can be nullable, and the V2 speed can also be nullable, which is not the case. In this case, we are always going to get a double value. But to get a nullable value, we can do a double V1 speed value, and then we pass this here, up here, and then we're going to check if the v1 speed value is less than 50. If that's the case, we're going to pass null. If it is not, we're going to pass the value. And this is basically a ternary condition. We are checking if this variable is less than this number, and then the question mark to check if this is true or false. If it is true, the first thing is going to be run, and if it is false, then we have this column here to separate it, and then if it is false, it's going to be the right side that is going to run. So basically here we are saying, is v1 speed value less than 50? If yes, return null to this variable. If not, return the actual value to this. Then we can do the same thing to the v2. And now in this case, we need to change our if and switch statements, because v1 speed can no longer be less than the minimal speed, because we are checking here if v2 speed value is less than 50. We could even here do SpeedCamera dot min speed, because in ternary conditions it accepts variables different than the switch expression and the switch case. v1 can never be less than the minimum speed, so we are going to check if v1 speed equals to null, and here we are going to see if case null. Same thing for v2, and that's it. So whenever the speed is less than 50, instead of having the value, it is going to be null, which is pretty much the same thing. If you're going less than 50 kilometers per hour, your basically doesn't exist. And you can see that it works pretty much the same. And there you go. You can see that here on v2, we don't have a number because the speed is null. But v2 still got a ticket for being a snail. And because we are generating a random number, we have different outputs here. In this case, we have two big numbers. In this case, we have a big number and a small number. I hope the if statements, else, and switch case and expression and the ternary condition and how to use nullable variables. I hope everything was clear. But if you have any question, please drop them in the comments. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.